Welcome back to This Week in Sports. Sam is stuck in traffic, so we've had to bring in some recruits to fill the void. Delighted to say, good friend, golf lover, NFL and college football expert. You may recognize him from the Jacksonville Jaguars broadcasts throughout the season as a sideline reporter and their day-to-day reporter around the club. And you might also recognize his waxy lyrical voice from Westwood One's calls of key college football games throughout the year. JP Shadrick joining us on the show today. JP, man, it is really good to see and speak to you. It's been a long time. I actually think the last time I spoke to you was when we bumped into each other on the sideline of a UCLA USC game out in Los Angeles, where none other than
hmm
Mr. Caleb, the number one first pick himself, was the quarterback for USC in an absolute thriller, man. So it's been too long for sure.
It's always a pleasure to visit with you. And yeah, I didn't realize that was the last time. I guess I missed you in London last year for the Jaguar games, but yeah, either in London or randomly in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. You never know when you're going to run into Oliver Wilson, and that's a good thing. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. And
Yeah.
that was a great game, by the way, that UCLA USC game 2 years ago, because Caleb Williams was throwing it all over the field. It was a back and forth game. Dorian Thompson Robinson was back and forth for UCLA on the other side, so they were dueling all game. It was a fantastic ball game, and USC just kind of held them at arm's length in the second half. They would get within one score, and then they'd score and answer back, and it was like four times in a row that happened in the second half. And but Caleb Williams showed that day, I think, why he's the number one pick.
I mean, we should get into the draft. I'd love to wax lyrical about how good Dorian Thompson Robinson was that evening for UCLA as well. But Caleb Williamson, I mean, picked up by the Bears. It was the worst kept secret going into, of course, yesterday. There were a few unexpected picks, perhaps, but is he the cut above the rest of what is proven to be quite clearly, considering how many quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks, a very strong QB class indeed. And what makes him so special as somebody who's had a chance to kind of see him up close and personal.
Yeah, a cut above, but I think that's just the eye of the beholder. And I think the Bears certainly thought so, obviously. There were moments last year, though, towards the end of the season, things weren't going that well. And at least from my perspective, I didn't like the fact that he didn't talk to the media the last month of the season. And the way he kind of showed off the field what was going on when things weren't going so well. Maybe that's overblown a little bit. It doesn't matter if you go out and play well. That you can overcome any of that kind of stuff. But when he's on, he has a big arm. He can make all the throws he wants, and he's done it for a couple of years in a couple different places. Remember, he transferred over to Southern California from Oklahoma, and is he? He's a different style, I think, than Jaden Daniels. Right? Daniels is the mobile type that can move. It kind of depends on what you're comfortable with. If you need more of a pocket style guy, okay, Caleb, yes, he can move some, but not like that. Then you're probably going to pick him. Drake May the same way. He's not going to run around all day. Jaden Daniels can do that, and he can throw it. So it depends on what kind of offense you want. What's your, you know, what's your attitude towards mobile quarterbacks and running and all these things, and um, what's your appetite for that? I think that's the big answer, but that was the worst kept secret. I mean, Caleb Williams was the guy, and I saw the video after the pick. The Bears GM said, "Hey, we've had this pick ready for months, but they wanted us to wait until the 5 minute mark to put it in. So be patient." I love that.
I always enjoy the, I guess, minutiae that has to go into every single decision that takes place in the NFL, including the fact that you've made your mind up on your next franchise quarterback potentially. And the NFL says, look, we need to keep the hype going around this draft. All right. We can't let that number one pick come out officially too early yet. We need to make sure there are plenty of people in Detroit stood there almost mind-blowingly. I still don't understand. I mean, I used to really love the draft back, especially when I was in college. The older I get, the more my kind of mind blows that people are, as they move it around different cities, willing to just stand there and wait to hear 30 seconds of an announcement, go crazy, and then it's like, well, what do we do? Especially in those war rooms on draft night, even for the teams. Now it's so spread out over 3 nights. it's a very easy night that first night for a lot of these teams who are picking early. They've had their guy signed and sealed and delivered basically for ages, and they all like high five and shake hands. It's like, what are we doing here, guys? Just put the pick in, and everyone can go home to bed nice and early.
Yeah, what wow, great job, guys. Caleb Williams is the pick. Wow, wait, let's all celebrate. Oh, pop the champagne. Like that. We had the same conversation actually last night in our offices here, kind of on the same note. It is funny how that works. But the process is real, right? I mean, they start scouting these guys when they show up on a college campus, and they keep a book on these guys for a long time and go through the process of talking to people around them in the past. And it has been a long road to get to round one of the 2024 draft, where it may seem like it's a done deal pretty quickly. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. That's why all these scouts and personnel people have worked for a couple of years at least to build a book on these guys. And it's more of a relief, I think, to have it done than maybe a celebration of what it is, depending on the situation.
Yeah, there's a couple of scouts in the back that've been working their socks off for 4 years that are really
That's right.
taking a breather and
Yeah.
earning their bottle of fizz or two in that evening. I mean, we had to make three picks, and then we finally got a QB, sorry, a non-QB off the board in Marvin Harrison Jr. going in fourth to the Arizona Cardinals. Sam, who is, as I say, stuck in traffic at the moment as we talk, has literally been talking about him as if he's been in the Cardinals war room with them. This seemed like this was the only place that Arizona were going to go. Kyler Murray, I suppose now this is great for him with a weapon, but it also puts a lot of pressure on him to, well, we are now giving you talent again. You got to go and deliver. We gave you DeAndre Hopkins. It worked out for a bit. Now we've given you a raw, moldable receiver that we can make perfect for you. Now you have to deliver.
Yeah. Good point, because they did get a weapon. I mean, Marvin Harrison is about as good as they come. I don't think he's as openly fast as Julio Jones, right, was when he's coming out. He's got almost everything else that Julio had. He's that type of player, I think. And I had Ohio State a bunch of times on Westwood One and saw him do so many different things and do them all pretty well. First off, he stands out in a crowd. If you're on field level, you can see this guy a mile away. Like, he's got the size, um, and then the length and everything. And then, 2 years ago in the Michigan game, he's catching a fade for like a 40-yard touchdown in one-on-one running past the guy. Fine, you can do that and make a diving catch for a touchdown, which was incredible. Last year against Penn State, I had the game, and it was a one-score game late. Ohio State had the ball, trying to go up 2 scores and seal it, and it was like a key play on about the 35 going in. Quick slant crosser kind of deal. Catch and run to the left sideline, up the boundary, and just outran everybody for the game sealing score. So he has that type of ability as well. Really great around the boundary, on the sideline. So he's got it all. And yeah, not many more excuses now, Kyler, because they got the big weapon to throw to. And there's a lot going on with the Cardinals off the field, right? So maybe they can get something done on the field and disrupt from some of the things happening off.
I would never try and insinuate that you, as a man so closely linked with the Jacksonville Jaguars, is trying to just stir the pot even more about any other NFL franchise or whatever. And
Well,
I
yeah,
like the fact that you're
yeah.
trying to.
Glass houses better not throw stones, right? I'm with you.
Hey, Doug's a good man to have in there at that franchise. Don't worry, you're in safe hands with him. Let me tell you, as an Eagles fan, he'll keep everything just trundling on nice and smoothly. I saw you had Travis Etienne actually on your broadcast last night, joining you and kind of giving some insight. I guess still as a guy who's relatively young in the league, although I guess he's also going into that third year, which is the average playing career anyway for
Well,
these guys, right? So
Well, he's going into year 4. Remember, he missed his
yeah, of
rookie year
course.
with the Liz Frank foot injury, and then he's had 2 years on the field after that. And we told him that. I mentioned that to him last night. I said, "You're going into year 4," and he looked at me. Yeah, you're the salty vet, basically. But it's been a good couple of years for him, right? Over 1,000 yards each time. Found the end zone a bunch last year, and it felt like he really took a step in the right direction. If they can just figure out the offensive line, they've had a lot of changes there the last year or so. Maybe they can settle some things in. And if with Brian Thomas coming in with the over the top weapon to go with the guys they have a receiver, you might see some more running options at times because you're going to have to cover all those guys. Etienne's a good, solid player. I mean, I would expect that the deadline for the fifth-year option for him is May 2nd. Him and Trevor Lawrence, by the way, they're both first-round picks in that draft. So I don't see why they wouldn't pick it up. Been a very solid player since he has been back from that rookie year injury, and a good guy to have in that locker room.
Did he give you any insight, off air last night? We're getting it done. Don't worry. We're getting that option done. It's all good. Or is this just JP speculating, so to speak?
I just have I'm speculating. Let's
It's
put
got
it that way.
you got a knack for this. You got an ear to the ground in the organization. I'm going to take it as gospel.
No, I mean, it just makes sense. I don't know why you wouldn't know. I mean, he's been a good player for you. It's like $6 million or something. And, and he's a first round guy. Like, so you need some cornerstone guys right now. Beyond that, who knows? But the deadline to make that decision is May 2nd. So we will find out soon.
I mean, what was Travis's reaction to an LSU guy being drafted? Obviously, because Clemson and LSU, the teams that have just stifled over the last few years the dominance of Alabama in college football. Is there almost a kindred spirit nature to LSU and Clemson guys? The fact that they have been able to get one over Bama in the last few years, and the new acquisition coming into Jacksonville as well, as you touched on, provides a massive weapon for Trevor Lawrence as well to aim at.
Well, I think for those guys especially, it may not be the college thing that brings them together. It's more the Louisiana thing. I mean, you got to remember, Travis is from South Louisiana, and Brian Thomas Jr. is just east of Baton Rouge. So they are all kind of aware of each other in that world down there, in the prep world, the high school world before they go in. So that's, I think, more that would bring those guys together. I think Cam Robinson's another from the state, but he's from the northern part of the state, which is a little different world than the southern part of that state of Louisiana. It's just a different area altogether. But they have kindred spirits a lot of times because of where they come from. The Brian Thomas thing will be interesting. He ran tied for the third fastest 40-yard dash at the combine. He scored 17 touchdowns receiving last year. That led all of big-time college football. He was second on the LSU team last year in catches and yardage behind Malik Neighbors, of course. So Jaden Daniels flinging it around. So he was a big play guy. It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of the jump ball things. He's more long than he is big. But he's 6'3". I just shook his hand walking through the hallway here earlier today before I hopped on with you, and he's all of 6'3". There's no doubt about that. And Doug Peterson today talked a lot about his football IQ and his football smarts and the importance that plays in this building, because as complex as this Jaguars offense would like to be, well, you've got to have the players to go execute that and make changes on the fly and know every route in the offense or in a certain play and make the change and not have to flip the field and go to a different area. You know what? I'm going to run Zay Jones's route because Zay can't get over here. I've got to run what he was going to run as well. And so there's some of that to it. He's fast. He's tall. You can start there, and he's smart. That's really good. You could kind of teach the rest. And I think that's the idea.
If he's got the turning circle of a London minicab, he'll be fine at those little hook routes. He'll be fine when he comes across to Wembley and maybe of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium if you guys get another chance to play there. I know, obviously, fond memories of the Jags in London last year with an excellent couple of weeks. I'm disappointed, actually, you didn't get Brian to come and have a chat with us. He needs to ingratiate himself quickly to the UK media. I mean, has anybody discussed the UK fan base to him about how we're all champing at the bit to get the Jags back over here again?
I think he's going to have a pint full soon. Don't worry, you'll have your time with Brian. He's running around today. They got him in. I mean, they flew from Detroit. He was in Detroit last night on Thursday night, and then they took the early private jet from Detroit to Jax. They got here at 10 o'clock, 9:30, something like that in the morning. About a 2.5-hour flight, and then straight into lunch and meeting the owner and meeting the front office and then a press conference at 1:30. So they're making the rounds. The family's here. And I mean, that's a whirlwind 2 days for him.
All right, I'll give him an excuse for missing out on us English media then. He's got a few things on his plate, what with being a first round selection in the NFL draft this year. Just finally, JP, I want to get your take on what was the early surprising move in the draft with the Atlanta Falcons taking Penix at quarterback. And it's not necessarily just about the fact that they've taken a young QB, but also the fact that Kirk Cousins didn't seem to recognize this and know about it, and the statements from Kirk and his team after, of course, signing that big deal in the offseason with the Falcons anyway. Your thoughts on what is, I think, a great move from Atlanta, but it doesn't seem like too many people in Atlanta necessarily feel the same way as I do.
Well, there's two different things on this, and I'm kind of on the fence here, but let's start with the coach and GM's perspective. It gives them at least a 5-year cushion, right? Because they've drafted a first round quarterback on top of the free agent quarterback that they have for 4 years and $100 million guaranteed. Okay. So I get it. Everybody's talking about the Green Bay model of this. They've done it twice. Favre and then Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years, first round pick, and Rodgers was there. Jordan Love sits for a couple years and moves on. But it felt like the Packers had some other things in place at that time as well to be able to go win. The Falcons need some other things, it feels like, especially on defense, to kind of take that next step consistently. Now that said, the fact that the Kirk Cousins camp is allegedly upset, he got $100 million guaranteed. Like, I don't know, and this was a take that it made a whole lot of sense to me that I saw earlier today. Sorry, I guess. I mean, enjoy your $100 million and go play. So may have been blindsided, but I don't know why. Why does the team have to say every single thing? I get why it can be confusing. Okay, you told me one thing a month or two ago, and now this is not what what we kind of talked about. But hey, man, competition's there all the time, and no matter if you're a veteran player or a young player, at least that's obviously the way the Falcons are going to see it. At least it looks like, unless there's some other move we don't see coming. But in the long run, now the other trick, Penix is what? He's already 24.
Mm.
So in theory, by the time he touches the field in 3 or 4 years, he'll be 27 or 28 years old going in for the first time. That makes it a little bit different because some of those other quarterbacks were young guys, 21, 22. So the age is a little bit different here.
Yeah, but we see so often that guys that are given time at that position to settle into the league, generally, when they start playing, look far more comfortable than, say, Bryce Young is probably going to look in his second year this coming year because they've been beaten around the head too many times in bad teams. You get to learn from a Kirk Cousins. You've got a mobile quarterback that can learn how to be a pocket quarterback from a very good established QB. And you've given yourself so much rope to play with at the most important position as a franchise. I don't see how it's not great as a short and long term investment what the Falcons have done at what is the most important position on the most important side of the ball, as the first round of the draft showed us last night with the lack of defensive players coming off the board.
But Oliver, I mean, this is a win right now. We
Oh, I
need
hate it.
instant gratification. This is a gratification business. We need it right now. We can't wait 4 years. It's impossible anymore.
Get,
It's not allowed.
Get off
Fans won't have
TikTok,
it.
JP.
So,
Get off Instagram Reels and TikTok and your social media instant dopamine fix and learn how to build a dynasty like the New England Patriots. It's boring, but it wins football games. Come on, JP.
seven. We have a 7 second span of attention. That's all the commercials on YouTube are 7 seconds because you'll scroll right through it, and that's it.
That's
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 the
what,
world we live in.
except for the draft, which they have to drag out for as long as possible, and somehow we still pay
Right.
attention for these full 3 days. JP, man, I
Yeah.
know you've got to get going. I know you've got a busy night ahead of you. Quickly, where can everybody find you and your work? Obviously on Westwood One and across social media as well.
Yeah, Jaguars.com right now. We've got coverage of the Jaguars picks throughout the weekend. And of course, excuse me, all the coverage of the first round pick from when his arrival on Friday. So we'll be live with a pre show going into round two. Immediate coverage after each pick the rest of the way, and then a wrap up show on Saturday. And then all of a sudden, the schedule release is coming out at some point soon, the next couple of weeks. So we'll have a good idea of what's going on in your neck of the woods with the Jaguars this year and beyond. So that's next on the docket. Off-season programs here, so it's good times.
Dude, quickly, how good is Augusta, by the way? I've never been. I'm so jealous. I saw you posting pictures on social media. How good is
Yeah,
it?
I had never been either. I had never been either. And it's everything you've heard of times 10. Like
Oh,
it's that good. It's that nice. And it's that hilly. It is real. It is a significantly more hilly property than I would have ever imagined, even on TV. Like from the 10th tee to the 10th green, there's like a 90-foot drop
jeez.
down that hill to the dog leg left deal. I didn't know it was that steep. And then 11 goes down further than that. So you're all of a sudden you're way down there. And I think we walked 10 miles that day or something. We were out there all day because we had one day on the property. It was just beautiful. And everybody's polite because they have to be. And they are. And there's no phones. And it's like going back in time a little bit. It really is. It's all about the golf and the people around you and the course. And it's beautiful.
Hey, look, we'll talk off camera about how we could maybe make this work together next year at Augusta, bud. But thanks for the time, man, as always, and enjoy the rest of the draft, bro.
Always enjoyed it, Oliver. Thanks.